Welcome back to DIY No Need to Cry with Ivelisse. Faux stained glass wine bottle DIY. All the materials that I used for this DIY are listed in the description box below. I made this DIY to answer a couple of questions some of you had. Deb contacted me and wanted to make a stained glass window for her mother and wanted to know if I knew what to use. Stacy wanted to know of any ideas decorating the bottles or vases so that they are still somewhat transparent or semi-transparent so that she can put fairy lights in it and see the light shine through. And Ruby wanted the same thing, some LED lights in a bottle. So I combined them all and made this bottle. Hope this helps inspire you, your crafting, and that I've answered all of your questions. So, in order to get this stained glass look, I looked online and saw a few ways to do it. I tested them out to see which one would work the best. Let's get started. I tested out the acrylic paints with the Mod Podge Super Gloss Brilliant, which is a clear coat. Acrylic paints with my regular Mod Podge gloss. This one is milky white but dries clear. Then I tried food coloring and Mod Podge Super Gloss, and then the food coloring and Mod Podge Gloss. When it was all dry, I thought the food coloring with the Mod Podge Super Gloss Brilliant had the best results, so I went with that one. So thank you, Tenshi. I thought her method was the best one. I'll leave the link to her video in the description box below. I prepared each color I was going to use. I used these empty bottles I've been saving for years. They are empty vaping e-liquid bottles. If you don't have them, that's fine. I'll show you how to mix without the bottles. I poured the Mod Podge into another clean and dry container that has a small opening so that I could fill the tiny bottles without making a mess. I made sure the bottles were clean and dry before doing this. I filled the bottle with Mod Podge. Then I took the food coloring and added 6 drops. You can add as much as you'd like. Then I took the back of a paintbrush and mixed it all together. I did it this way instead of shaking it because the label on the Mod Podge bottle advised not to shake. I did this with all my colors and then labeled each of them with a Sharpie. You can also mix small amounts of each color like this. If you do it like this, do not make big batches as it will dry out on you while waiting for sections of the bottle to dry. So do little amounts as you go. For the image I used, I went on DelphiGlass.com. They have beautiful patterns for stained glass. Some are for purchase and some are free. This one is free to use. Type in free Peacock bevel panel pattern in the search bar. Holy cow, try saying that 3 times fast. Click that and it will bring you to the downloadable PDF file with the pattern. I went to my local FedEx and printed out 5 copies just in case I messed up. The reason I didn't print it out myself is that it had to be a laser copy in order for it to work. No inkjet copies, okay? Only laser print copies will work for this. Cut the image out, leaving about an inch of space on each side. Take some painter's tape and tape the image facing down onto the bottle. Make sure it's nice and flat. For this part, you'll need nail polish remover with acetone or pure acetone, a brush and a spoon. I used pure acetone. Brush the acetone over the paper. I did it liberally and had no problem, but start off with light coats and place more if needed. Once the paper is soaked, take the back of the spoon and press down hard. Pass the spoon over the whole image doing this. This is an old method used to transfer images onto wood. I decided to try it on glass to see if it would work, and it did. Make sure to get every spot. Just to be on the safe side, I gave it another coat of acetone and then continued with the spoon. Lift one side of the tape only to see if the image has transferred. If not, place it back down and continue until it has. Because the lines on this pattern are so thin, you can barely see it, but I can assure you that it works. I could see it, but the camera did not pick it up that well. If you put the video on full screen, you can see and make it out. Taking a black Sharpie, I traced over the peacock only. I then added my own lines because I wanted to use more than one color in these areas. I wanted to use 2 shades of the same color, like a highlight. If you make a mistake, use a cotton swab and some alcohol to clean it up. I also cleaned off the rest of the pattern that transferred but I didn't want. Take the bottle and place it on something that won't let it roll away. I used my old egg container flipped upside down. It works perfect for this. Now taking some fabric paint, I traced over the whole thing. Practice on paper first. You want to get used to doing this so that your lines come out somewhat even in thickness. Also, do this in sections and let them dry so you don't smudge it trying to trace the rest of it. If you smudge it, wipe it off with a dry paper towel and continue. Do not clean it with the alcohol or you'll erase the Sharpie pattern underneath. Once you've finished the whole pattern and it has dried, take a cotton swab with alcohol and clean all the Sharpie marks left on the bottle. The next part I did free-handed. I drew a double border around the peacock about 1 inch wide. If you mess up, again, use the alcohol to fix it. I then drew triangles inside the border all the way around. And finally, freehand squares, rectangles, and triangles all over the bottle until it's completely covered. When I was done with that, I traced it in sections with the fabric paint until the whole bottle was done. Remember to use something to keep the bottle from rolling and let it dry fully when you are done with a section. Then continue until you're done. And once again, clean off all the permanent marker marks with alcohol. Before I started filling it in with the food coloring mixture, I colored one of the copies to see what color scheme I was going to use. This way I can refer back to it as I'm making the bottle. Now for the fun part, filling it in. I used blue, pastel blue, teal, green, red, yellow, purple, and a pin to pop air bubbles. This is how I started to do it, but I realized later on that it was better to just put a tiny bit on the spot and spread it with a brush. The reason this way doesn't work is because this is not a flat surface, and the thicker the amount you use, the more gravity pulls, leaving cracks and overflowing, which I will show you further along. Remember to let each section dry before starting the next, or it will run or ruin the previous work when turning the bottle. For this part, I painted the whole thing yellow so that the peacock would pop from the rest of the bottle. Make sure to turn the bottle so that the part you are working on is as leveled as possible. Let it dry in this position as well. Here I am adding texture by tapping the coloring with my brush. I did this every 3 to 4 minutes as it dried to create a wavy glass look. I only textured this part of the bottle. Fill in the rest of the bottle with all the different colors, following the same step. Add a drop of color. Spread it with a brush, pop any air bubbles with a pin. Do only 3 to 4 spots at a time that are leveled, and keep the bottle still while it dries. Once dried, turn and start again. This is what happened when I put too much color in one spot. It cracks because it is not a flat surface and gravity pulls it if it's too thick. I'm usually picky and somewhat of a perfectionist. However, I love every crack and mistake I made on this bottle. It just looks so perfect with all its imperfections. This is where I started using the brush and everything came out smooth. Continue until you have colored the whole bottle. Once the bottle is done, you can put lights in it if you'd like. I wanted mine to be more of an art piece, so I added a custom cork. I took a clear round plastic refillable ball and glued the two halves together and then set that aside to dry. Now do the same thing you did to the bottle. I free-handed this without using the Sharpie this time. I did one half and let it dry, and here I'm doing the other half. Set that down to dry. Once that's dry, fill it in the same way you did with the bottle until it's completely colored and dried. I want to cut the cork for 2 reasons. 1, because you can see through the bottle, and 2 is because I don't want any of it poking out of the top. I want the ball to lay flat on the bottle. Here, I'm measuring where I want to cut the cork. Make a mark with an X-Acto knife. Now you can cut the cork to the right size. Make 2 slits where you will insert the ball. I used hot glue, but it's best if you use a stronger glue if you're going to be taking the cork on and off. So put the glue and adhere the ball. Now you have a matching custom cork. And this is the finished look. I love this bottle. Expect to see more of these because I really enjoyed this one. I already have another idea with this style. I hope this video was helpful and that you enjoyed it. Don't forget to leave your requests in the comments section below of what you would like to see me make. As always, thank you for watching, and if this is your first time watching, I hope you consider subscribing to get updates on future videos. And remember, do it yourself. There's no need to cry.